Welcome to this explainer masterclass from the DigiPalms. Listen, if you're totally exhausted from relying on sheer willpower and endless cups of coffee just to drag yourself through the workday, you are in the right place. Today, we're going to show you exactly how to stop the endless grind and start cracking the biological code to extraordinary sustainable work. We're pulling back the curtain on the hard neuroscience that separates elite performers from everybody else, and we'll teach you how to engineer those peak states on demand. All right, let's jump right in.
Here is our quick roadmap for today. We'll cover the focus crisis, the neuroscience of flow, the four-stage flow cycle, activating your flow triggers, destroying the focus killers, and finally, the DigiPalms operating system.
Starting things off with Section 1, the modern focus crisis.
We really have to start by acknowledging a pretty harsh reality. Our modern digital environment isn't just annoying, it is actively destroying our ability to do our absolute best work. But before we try to fix it, let's look at the incredible potential waiting on the other side of all that distraction. 500%. That is not just some motivational guess. McKinsey research actually found that executives report being up to 500% more productive when they're operating in a flow state. On top of that, creative professionals show a 400% boost in problem solving. This is what it looks like when your brain finally stops fighting itself and just fires on all cylinders. Imagine knocking out 5 days of deep, meaningful work in a single afternoon. That is the biological promise of flow.
But here is the truly shocking truth. Despite that massive potential, most of us only spend about 5% of our working lives in this state. Just 5%. It's a tragic waste of human potential, honestly. And it's exactly why we at the DigiPalms developed our framework, to help you bridge that huge gap between the 5% reality and your 500% capability.
Moving on to Section 2, the neuroscience of flow.
Now, to prove this isn't just magic or some catchy self-help phrase, let's get into the actual biology. When you get into the zone, your brain literally changes how it operates. It's based on this concept called transient hypofrontality. I know, it sounds like a mouthful, but it's incredibly empowering. Basically, it means the temporary downregulation of your prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain that handles all your self-criticism, your doubt, your overthinking, the voice that reminds you of that awkward thing you said 5 years ago. Yeah, when you enter flow, that loud inner critic is literally shut off. You stop questioning every single move, which lets you execute complex tasks completely effortlessly and intuitively.
And that silencing of the inner critic? It happens because your brain gets flooded with what we like to call the flow cocktail. 4 specific chemicals totally transform your experience. First, you get a hit of dopamine, which drives motivation and rewards you for focusing. Then comes norepinephrine, locking in this laser-like attention and blocking out distractions. Next up, endorphins kick in as natural painkillers, wiping away the mental friction and stress of the hard work. And finally, anandamide promotes lateral thinking, helping you make those brilliant creative connections that just weren't obvious before. Blended together, they turn ordinary capability into a completely extraordinary experience.
All right, Section 3, the 4-stage flow cycle. So a crucial point we always teach here at the DigiPalms is that getting into this peak state is absolutely not an instant on-off switch. You can't just command your brain to dump that cocktail on cue. Instead, you have to navigate a very predictable biological cycle. And surprisingly, the journey actually kicks off with struggle. This is where almost everyone gets it wrong. They sit down to do the hard work, feel confused or frustrated, and immediately assume they just aren't in the zone, so they check their phone or quit. But guess what? That frustration is actually a required feature. It's not a bug. You are loading up the cognitive information your brain needs. Without that initial struggle, you literally cannot launch into flow.
So here's how you actually move through that friction. Step 1, you push through the struggle to build cognitive load. Step 2 is the release. This is where you deliberately step away, go take a walk, let the subconscious take the wheel. Step 3, suddenly the pieces click together and you ride the flow state, achieving that effortless focus. And finally, step 4, and please do not skip this. You must enter recovery. Deep rest is absolutely required to lock in those new skills and let your nervous system reset. If you skip recovery, you're pretty much destroying any chance of finding flow tomorrow.
Let's jump into Section 4, activating your flow triggers.
So how do we actually flip these switches in our brain to enter that cycle on demand? Well, you don't have to wait around for luck. You can intentionally engineer your environment to demand flow from your brain. We use a flow activation blueprint that relies on 3 distinct levers: psychological, environmental, and social triggers. Think about it. You can intentionally design your tasks to have clear goals and immediate feedback. You can optimize your physical spaces by wiping out clutter and controlling noise. And you can even leverage social dynamics like shared team goals or accountability partners. You're basically building a custom cockpit designed specifically to launch your brain into the zone. Let me give you an example. The absolute most powerful psychological trigger you can use is finding what we call the 4% sweet spot. This is that delicate, perfect balance where a task's challenge level is precisely 4% greater than your current skill level. If it's too easy, you're going to get bored and distracted. If it's too hard, you get anxious, your brain dumps cortisol, and boom, flow is blocked. But right at that 4% edge, it is just enough to stretch you. It demands your absolute full attention without overwhelming your nervous system.
Which brings us to Section 5, destroying the focus killers.
Because, let's be real, you can set up all the positive triggers in the world, but they are not going to work if you are constantly under attack by modern distractions. We have to play offense against the things actively destroying our attention spans. At the Digipalms, we deeply understand the struggle against digital devices. I mean, they are literally engineered to hijack our dopamine systems with variable rewards. Every single time a notification goes off, it pulls you right out of the struggle phase and resets your flow cycle to zero. The data on this is wild. Prolonged digital screen exposure drains your working memory by 11%, and multitasking or context switching increases attention-related errors by a staggering 2.2 times. By keeping your notifications on, you are quite literally making yourself slower and less capable.
But here's the good news. You do not need superhuman willpower to beat these attention destroyers. Willpower depletes anyway. You just need better environmental design. We use specific recovery protocols to combat this. You beat digital dopamine loops with tech-free zones in the first and last hours of your day. You defeat context switching by rigidly batching similar tasks together, like doing all your emails at once. And you lower that flow-killing cortisol by enforcing strict 10 to 15-minute physical movement breaks.
It all really boils down to the core question that drives everything we do at the Digipalms. What if you could make this happen on purpose? Why in the world should you wait around for lucky, fleeting moments of inspiration when you can systematically architect your entire day for peak output? The simple answer is, you shouldn't. You already have the biology, and now you have the blueprint.
That takes us to our final stop, Section 6, the Digipalms operating system.
Let's consolidate all this hard neuroscience, the flow cycles, and the triggers into a tangible, daily operating system you can use tomorrow morning. When you structure your day like this, you completely stop fighting your biology and start writing it. You wake up and immediately hydrate. In that first 15 minutes, you get physical movement and natural light to clear out sleep inertia and set your circadian rhythm. Then, you leverage your brain's natural morning cortisol peak to protect a massive 90 to 120-minute block of deep, uninterrupted work. No emails, no meetings, just you and the 4% challenge rule. And immediately after that block, a 15 to 20-minute tech-free recovery break to lock in those neural gains.
But please never forget that your brain is a biological organ. The most advanced flow strategies in the entire world will completely fail if your physical foundation is crumbling. You absolutely cannot optimize your mental output if you're sleeping poorly or running purely on sugar. You need 7 to 9 hours of sleep, you need protein and healthy fats to prevent blood sugar crashes, and you must maintain consistent hydration because even mild dehydration causes a 12% drop in your cognitive performance. You have to treat yourself like the elite corporate athlete you are.
So that brings us to the ultimate question. Your extraordinary performance is literally just waiting for you, hidden right behind all that digital noise and those inefficient workflows. We challenge you to take the Digipalm system, reclaim your attention, respect the struggle phase, build your cognitive scaffolding, and actually unlock your highest potential. The biology is already inside you. You just needed the code. Thank you so much for joining us for this Explainer Masterclass. The only question left is, now that you know exactly how to unlock your true potential, are you actually brave enough to put your phone down and do it?